week. It's round 15. AFL. Finally, I have a decent projected score after a horrid week last week. But, I'm pretty happy with my projected score thus far. I mean, yes, I'm doing this stream a little late, but let's go. Thus far, we've got Zorko with 174, 112 Danaher, and 58 Stewart. Stewart, pretty shit game, to be honest. But it's not a bad result to start the round off. I've gone with. Let's see what happens. I'll stick with that. Last week I went with Bont, so I've just swapped the Bont and Oliver, which I've pretty much done most of the year. Grundy's back this week, so it's good to see. I was going to trade away a Waterman, Alec Waterman, in my forward line, the Essendon player. Now, I was thinking of doing it, but he was named to play this week, unlike last week. I thought his injury would be another week or two, but he looks like he's come back, so I'm not going to be trading him away. I'm, in fact, just going to hold on to him for just a little bit longer just to see what happens. I don't want my forward line to be exposed too much. Or maybe I will make the trade, I don't know. But the trade that I'm definitely making this week is Brockman. Brockman's out. He was named last week on the extended bench and then last minute just didn't end up playing. I'm going to trade in Luke Edwards, who I mentioned from West Coast, who I mentioned last week. So let's get to Luke Edwards. There he is. Luke Edwards absolutely smashed it the week before against the Tigers. A 96, a 63 the week before that against Carlton. He's still named to play, but he is on the extended bench. So bringing him into the team is a little bit of a risk still. But considering how well he played last week, if you look over here, if you look at the ins and outs, where is West Coast's game? Harry Edwards was omitted. But there are a lot of ins, like Tim Kelly, Luke Shuey. Like, these guys are going to be taking a lot of midfield time away from Luke. So it's kind of tough to see what's going to actually happen. If you look at that bench. You got Waterman, Langdon. Langdon's going to play. Luke Edwards, Nelson, Predicule, Vardy, Jones, Rotham. Look, I feel like Edwards is still going to play this week. He played really well against the Tigers, and I think too well for him to just be dropped. So I'm going to stick with him and stick with this trade. And it's going to give me a little bit of more cash next week because Lockie Jones is injured. So let's just complete this trade, shall we? So the trading out Brockman and in Edwards. And let's see what that's done. That's done. All right. So that's what we've gone with at the moment. I'm pretty happy with my midfield. All three of my emergencies are playing, and my main my main 8 midfielders are just playing fantastic football. So I'm very happy with my midfield and my ruck. I've got a lot of ruck options. I've got 4 ruck options because Treacy, Treacy and Coleman Jones can be rotated as well. So I've got 4 ruck options. But it means I've also got extra forward line options too, because I can always move Treacy, as I said, Treacy and Coleman Jones around. By the way, I'm very early for work. That's why I'm doing this now. And I didn't want to do it last night, so I just felt like doing it now. My defense, I feel like, is okay. I just got to get rid of Lockie Jones. I'm thinking I either play Bianco or I play Highmore. Highmore had an amazing game the week before. Who was St Kilda playing this week? And then we got Collingwood playing Fremantle. I feel as if Bianco might play the better game, so I am going to substitute him out. Jones out, he is injured, not making the emergency. And Highmore the emergency, just to see what happens. Look, Bianco's is an okay player. I know he had a couple of bad scores, but that's not the way I'm going to keep my defense. Next week, I'm most likely going to be trading out Lockie Jones. But at the moment, there's just not much else to put in. Look, I was thinking of getting rid of either a Highmore or potentially a Waterman, which would give me extra cash, but I could always do that next week. I don't need to do that this week. If I was to get rid of Waterman now and cash out maybe a Briggs I'm thinking I could bring in Briggs from GWS, and that would give me a little bit of extra cash because I'm sitting on just under 100 grand to play with to upgrade Jones to. That'll give me about 340 something, but even still, there's no one really in defense that I'm looking at in the mid threes. I'm going to need a player that's going to be in the fours at least to really make an impact in that defense. So I'm thinking I'm either going to trade away either a Paddy Dow or a Waterman and really make a big change. The other option was Hind from Essendon to really bolster my forward line instead, but all my forwards are playing, so there's no real urgency there. The urgency is really getting rid of Lachie Jones, who's going to be injured for a while, and fixing that and just finalising that back line. I think that's the way to go. Most likely going to get rid of 2 players next week. As I said, Waterman's playing this week, so he might go up in value again. I can't see him being below 200, so if he goes up in value, it's tough to say whether or not I make that choice now. It looks like he's going to score in the 50s again. He's probably going to go up a little bit more, and then I can make that trade next week, just to get rid of him next week, and then maybe make 100k out of it. I'm not too sure who I'm bringing in. I'm thinking Briggs. That's the player I'm swaying towards, but at the same time, Briggs is not a player. Like if I hit trade in, and I go Briggs. Briggs is playing his 3rd game for GWS this week, but again, was named on the extended bench. So there's no guarantee that he's actually going to play still. Briggs, here we go. He scored 69, that was okay. He's a defensive forward. He's got a little bit of options there to be moved around. And then you've got, where is it? Defensive forward, actually. I think, is it cancel? I think, not 100%, but I think Bianco, he's a defensive mid. So if Bianco is a defensive forward, that'd be okay, because if Briggs didn't play, I can always move Bianco into the forward line one day if needed, but I don't really have any defensive forwards to really make that change with, so there's no point bringing him in for that dual position. Briggs is just not the kind of player that I'm thinking is solid enough to get game. I want my players playing consistent game time as I enter finals on my bench, because the last thing you need is to score zeros. Come grand final, I had the amazing prelim final. Come grand final, Doherty was gone. Didn't have any trades left because I used them up in the lead up to the prelim final. Doherty was gone. I had Stratton in the back line, and it probably saved my game. He ended up scoring, I think, 75 or something, which is not amazing, but then again, it was his best score from the season, and being a player that's essentially an emergency because Doherty didn't play, it was good to have. And then I didn't have any of my midfielders playing because I had upgraded on my bench, that is. Didn't have any of my midfielders playing, and then I had a player as a late change last minute from Geelong. He was out of the team, and then suddenly I'm scoring a 0 in my midfield. Luckily, the dude I was playing in the grand final, he also happened to have the same player and the same issue on his bench. So we both scored a 0. So it kind of evened itself out. But had that have not happened, I might have been in a bit of trouble. So I want to make sure that doesn't happen this year. I really want my bench to be playing consistent footy, and I think that I've got a bench that is playing consistent footy. So I'm just going to stick with that one trade. But there is a player that I am looking at as a very risky option, and I just want to see what he does first this week before I make a shot play. So let's trade out Lachie Jones, and I'll show you who I'm talking about. That I actually started in my side at the start of the year before he went down to injury, and it was Alex Pearce, defender. He's only $235,000. Very cheap. Scored 11 in round 1 because of an injury. Got hit hard with injury pretty much off the bat. He had a decent preseason. And then he came back 12 weeks later in round 13. And he scored a 78, which is actually is a decent result. He's most likely going to drop in value due to that 11 score, though. So I'm not going to take a play on him now. But if he scores again in the 70s or the 80s this week, right? Next week, he's a serious option because I could trade him in for Lockie Jones instead, and then work on upgrading my forward line instead. It is a very risky option this late in the year, but it is a point of difference. And if he's scoring in the 80s at that price, it's not bad. And then I can work on my forward line instead of finishing that back line. And then I'd have at least a player scoring in the 80s in defense, and then, dump all my cash into the forward line with, on Coleman Jones, for example, and then really just finish that forward line. I mean, Heaney, I'm very disappointed with. I'm so upset that I went with him, but it's too late in the year for me to make that change. I'm just going to stick with Heaney for now. I know what he's capable of, but at the moment there's just one defender and one forward that I want to fix. And I have enough trades to do that and enough time to do that with. So we'll see what happens. Alex Pearce is definitely on my radar, though. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Do please make sure to subscribe, like the video. And I'm sorry, no Oreo today, no dog. He doesn't come to work with me, so I couldn't do that today. But he'll be back next week, and so will I. Thanks for watching.